The sun had just begun to rise over the sprawling campus of Crest University, one of the most prestigious institutions in Africa, located in the vibrant heart of Lagos. Students rushed across the gates, some heading to early classes, others lazily strolling to breakfast at the cafeteria. Brooklyn Travis adjusted the strap of her worn-out school bag and smiled at the morning breeze. She was known on campus not for wealth or fashion, but for her warmth and sincerity. Everyone from professors to janitors knew her name, and more importantly, her heart. Beside her walked Natalie Green, her course mate and dorm neighbor, though the two shared little in common. Natalie's heels clicked sharply on the pavement, matching her sharp tongue. Her designer bag swung from her arm like a trophy, her phone glued to her hand as she scrolled through photos from the party the night before. "Do you ever get tired of being so basic?" Natalie asked, glancing at Brooklyn's faded jeans and canvas shoes. Brooklyn chuckled softly. "Do you ever get tired of being so dramatic?" Before Natalie could fire back, a frail voice cut through the morning hum. "Please, sisters, help me. I haven't eaten since yesterday." At the main gate stood a man in torn clothes, dust clinging to his skin. He looked to be in his early 40s, with tired eyes that had seen more than his age should allow. He stretched out a trembling hand, not demanding but begging. Brooklyn paused immediately, taken aback by the desperation in his eyes. Natalie, however, scowled as if the man's presence offended her mourning. "Oh, please," Natalie scoffed, covering her nose. "Can someone get this filthy thing away from the gate? You're embarrassing the school." The man bowed his head slightly. "I'm sorry, madam. I meant no harm. Just hungry, that's all." Brooklyn's heart tightened. She reached into her bag, but her wallet was empty. She remembered she'd used her last cash to pay for printing her thesis. She looked down at the plastic container she carried. "My lunch," she murmured. She had packed rice and stew from the night before. Her only meal for the day. She looked at the man again. "Here," Brooklyn said gently, holding it out. "It's not much, but it's still warm." The man's hands trembled as he took the food. His lips quivered. Thank you so much, sister. God bless you." Brooklyn smiled. "Eat well, sir." Natalie stared, disgusted. "Are you serious? That's your lunch. You're really giving your food to a beggar." "He looks like he needs it more than I do," Brooklyn replied. Natalie laughed mockingly. "Starve if you must. You can't save the world, Brooklyn. You'll die trying." Brooklyn said nothing. Her eyes remained on the man as he sat by the gate, devouring the meal with such desperation it broke her heart. At Crest University, Brooklyn Travis was known for more than just her grades. She was the heart of her class. While others competed for attention and praise, Brooklyn quietly stood out through simple acts of kindness. Each morning, she arrived early to class and greeted everyone with a smile. "Good morning, David. How's your mom doing?" she asked a classmate whose mother had been hospitalized. "She's better now," David replied with a shy smile. "Thanks for checking, Brooklyn." "No problem. Let me know if you need help catching up with notes." Brooklyn had a reputation for sharing her notes freely. When students missed lectures, she didn't judge. She simply photocopied her materials or offered to explain after class. "Brooklyn, are you free after this lecture?" asked Ada, a quiet girl who often struggled in economics. "Of course," Brooklyn said. "Let's meet at the library. I'll break it down for you step by step." She often stayed late on campus, tutoring students, even though she had her own assignments to complete. She once stayed up till midnight helping a classmate prepare for a presentation, only to wake up early and attend her waitress job before her own exams. Brooklyn's kindness extended to the lecturers and non-academic staff, too. One morning, Professor Mako's laptop crashed before his lecture. Students groaned, frustrated, but Brooklyn stepped forward. "Sir, I have my laptop with me. You can use it if you'd like." The professor blinked. "You'd offer me your laptop, just like that?" Brooklyn smiled. "Yes, sir. We're all here to learn, right?" After class, the professor pulled her aside. "You're one of the rare ones, Miss Travis. Your heart is as bright as your mind." Even the janitors and security guards respected her. She often greeted them by name, brought them snacks, or sat with them during breaks. One day, she found Uncle Peter, the elderly cleaner, sitting alone, coughing. "Uncle Peter, "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Just a little cold." The next day, she returned with a flask of hot ginger tea and a scarf. "Take this," she said, wrapping it gently around his shoulders. "It's not much, but it'll help." Tears filled his eyes. "Nobody ever notices me, but you always see me." Brooklyn just smiled. "We're all human. Everyone deserves to be seen." Her classmates didn't always understand her. Some called her a goody two-shoes. Others teased her for being too nice. But when trouble came, when people needed help, they always turned to Brooklyn. Because in a world that often felt cold, she was a quiet warmth. A helper, a listener, a light. And though she didn't do it for praise, her goodness became the seed that would later blossom into a future far beyond what anyone expected. Brooklyn wasn't just a student. She was a blessing on campus. A friendship built on silence. Every morning after her classes, Brooklyn took the long path toward the campus gate, her lunch packed in a simple plastic container. It had become her daily routine, finding Jeremy, the man who had once posed as a beggar and secretly turned out to be Jeremy Zion, the billionaire owner of Zion Tech. But Brooklyn didn't know that yet. To her, Jeremy was just a kind old man who needed help, and who, in return, listened patiently as she talked about her dreams and her fears. One afternoon, she sat beside him on a wooden bench under the shade of an almond tree, handing him a piece of yam and sauce. "Here you go, Mr. Jeremy," she said, smiling. "It's yam again, I know. My cooking skills haven't improved much." Jeremy chuckled, his beard now neater, his eyes less weary. "Your food is better than what I ate in most fancy restaurants back in the day." "You say that just to make me feel good," Brooklyn said, rolling her eyes. "No," Jeremy said, looking at her seriously. "I say it because it's true, and because no one else brings me food every single day, not even out of pity. You bring it with love." Brooklyn's face softened. "You remind me of my late father. He was a good man, never rich, but always generous." "And what about you?" Jeremy asked. "What are your dreams?" Brooklyn took a breath. "I want to become a software developer. The first female one in my village. Maybe even start a tech center one day to teach girls coding. But right now, just finishing school is the dream." Jeremy nodded slowly. "And you will. People like you always find a way." Jeremy disappears. A week passed. Then two. Jeremy stopped coming to the gate. Brooklyn became worried. She looked for him every day after class, but saw no sign. Even the security guards hadn't seen him. One evening, she walked through the nearby community, asking around with Jeremy's description. Finally, she met a nurse outside a small, run-down clinic. "Yes, I know him," the nurse said, recognizing Brooklyn's worried face. "He collapsed 3 days ago. Malnutrition and untreated complications. We admitted him." "Can I see him?" Brooklyn asked. The nurse hesitated. "He's in bad shape. But yes, come in." When Brooklyn entered the dimly lit ward, she saw Jeremy lying still on a narrow metal bed. Tubes ran from his arms. His chest rose slowly with every breath. She walked over and held his hand. "Jeremy, it's me." "Brooklyn." His eyes fluttered open. You found me," he whispered. "Of course I did," she said, blinking back tears. "You didn't think I'd give up on you, did you?" Jeremy tried to smile. "They said surgery, but it's too expensive. I told them not to bother." Brooklyn turned to the nurse. "How much is the surgery?" "Nigerian Naira 750,000, the nurse said. "About $1,000. If we delay, he might not survive another week." Brooklyn froze. That was almost exactly what her tuition cost. Money she had saved for her final exams. If she spent it, she might lose everything. But then she looked at Jeremy's face. Pale, fragile. She didn't hesitate. A sacrifice made in silence. That night, Brooklyn walked into the clinic's tiny office, her hands trembling as she handed over the envelope of cash. "This is all I have. Please save him." "Are you sure, miss?" the nurse asked. "This is a lot of money." Brooklyn nodded. "I'll figure out my school fees later." "You're a good person," the nurse said softly. "God bless you." Brooklyn left the clinic with empty pockets, but a full heart. The final exams are near. Back on campus, the final exams were just a week away. Students filled the library and study halls. Brooklyn tried everything she could to raise the money again. Extra waitress shifts at the cafe, tutoring first-year students, even selling her old clothes and books. She called relatives, friends, even her mother back home. But nothing came through. She was still 250,000 Nigerian naira short. Her heart ached. She had come so far. She couldn't let it all slip away. Then one afternoon, she saw Natalie Green laughing in the hostel lounge, unboxing a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max, showing it off to her friends. Brooklyn swallowed her pride and walked over. "Hi, Natalie," she said. Natalie turned. "Oh, you. I need a favor," Brooklyn said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I'm short on tuition. Just 250,000 Nigerian nairas. I promise I'll pay you back in a month or two." Natalie smirked, crossing her arms. "So now you want help from me?" Brooklyn nodded. "Please." Natalie scoffed. "Didn't you just give your money to some homeless guy? Maybe next time you won't waste your life on people who can't repay you." Brooklyn blinked, stunned. He was dying? Natalie shrugged. "And now your degree is dying too." "Please," Brooklyn begged. "You have a new phone worth over 1,000,000 naira. Just a small loan." Natalie picked up her phone, flipping her hair. "This phone is an investment. You're a charity case. I don't invest in losses." Brooklyn stood there for a second, face burning with humiliation, tears forming in her eyes. Then she turned and walked away without another word. The collapse of a dream. Brooklyn missed the deadline. Her name was removed from the final exam list. She received an official notice: tuition not paid, student status suspended, records archived. Her world crashed. Everything she had worked for, 4 years of late nights, tutoring, volunteering, studying, was gone in a letter. Worse, the university system wiped her results. She would have to start all over again from level 100. Word spread across the campus like wildfire. Some students laughed. Others whispered behind her back, "She's the girl who gave away her tuition to save a beggar." What a waste. What kind of foolish girl does that? She was smart, but too emotional. Natalie, of course, had her own version of the story. Brooklyn's always been a charity addict. That's why she's broke. She gave up a degree for a man who sleeps on the street. Brooklyn heard it all. She said nothing. Goodbye, Crest. On the day Brooklyn packed her things and left her hostel, it rained heavily. Her books were soaked, her heart heavier than her bag. But even as she walked through the gates of Crest University, her spirit wasn't broken. She had no degree, no home, no plan. But she still had her dignity and her kindness. As she stood at the campus gate one last time, she looked around, half hoping Jeremy might be there. He wasn't. She wiped her tears and walked into the unknown. Recovery room. Meanwhile, in a private hospital in the city, Jeremy Zion woke up after his successful surgery. The doctor smiled. "You're lucky. That young lady, Brooklyn, paid just in time." Jeremy's eyes filled with tears. "Where is she now?" he asked. "We don't know," the doctor said. "She never came back after the payment." Jeremy sat up slowly, determination rising in his chest. "She saved my life. Now it's time to save hers." Brooklyn lost everything the world told her mattered: her grades, her reputation, her future. But she never lost her kindness. And the world has a way of repaying kindness when you least expect it. As one chapter closed, another quietly began, watching, waiting for the right moment to turn a broken dream into a miracle. Life after the fall. The bell above the door of Cedar Cafe jingled softly as Brooklyn Travis placed a tray of mugs on a table. The once top student of Crest University now wore a faded apron, her hair pulled back into a bun, and a tired but gentle smile on her face. It had been 4 months since she was dismissed from the university. 4 months of scrubbing dishes, cleaning tables, and walking home late at night with aching feet. But she never complained. She wiped down another table as laughter echoed from a group of students sitting nearby. She recognized some of them. They were her former classmates. They didn't recognize her, or pretended not to. One of them whispered, "Isn't that Brooklyn? The girl who gave up her tuition for a beggar?" "Yeah." Another snickered. "Now she's serving coffee." Sad. Brooklyn heard them. She smiled anyway. Later, in the break room, She sipped a glass of water and looked out the dusty window. Her dreams felt far away now, but in her heart, she knew she had done the right thing. "I'd do it again," she whispered to herself. A strange visit. The next day was unusually hot. The cafe buzzed with its regular crowd, students, lecturers, and a few business people from nearby offices. Brooklyn moved swiftly between tables, balancing trays and offering her usual quiet cheer. Then the door opened. Everything changed. A tall, well-dressed man in a navy blue suit stepped in. His shoes were polished. His posture was confident. Behind him were two bodyguards, dressed in black, scanning the room. Brooklyn didn't pay much attention until the man turned toward her. Her breath caught. Jeremy, but not the Jeremy she knew. This was a new Jeremy, clean-shaven, eyes sharp, skin glowing with health. He walked like someone who knew exactly who he was. She nearly dropped her tray. "Brooklyn Travis," he said gently, his voice clear and full of warmth. She blinked. "Jeremy? Is it really you?" He smiled. "Yes, but I think we need to talk. May I sit?" She nodded, leading him to a corner booth, still in shock. Her coworkers whispered and stared. The truth revealed. Once seated, Brooklyn leaned forward, eyes wide. I thought you were still recovering. You look different." "I am different," Jeremy said, folding his hands. "And I owe you the truth." He paused, then looked her straight in the eyes. "I was never truly homeless." Brooklyn stared. "I don't understand. I'm Jeremy Zion, heir to Zion Tech Holdings. My family runs a billion-dollar tech empire. But last year, I hit rock bottom. After losing someone close and being betrayed by those around me, I fell into deep depression. I felt invisible, like nothing I did mattered. I even thought of ending my life." Brooklyn gasped. "I didn't want therapy or pity," he continued. "So I started a documentary project. I disguised myself as a beggar across different cities in Africa to see if anyone still had compassion, if I could find even one person who saw me as a human being." Brooklyn was silent, trying to process the words. "And then I met you," Jeremy said softly. "You gave me food when you had nothing. You sat with me, talked to me, treated me with respect. You gave me hope when I had none. I didn't know who you were," Brooklyn said quietly. "Exactly," he replied. "That's what made it real." He reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I never needed money for surgery," he said. "I paid for myself. I just wanted to see what you would do. And you gave up your tuition, your whole future, for someone you thought had nothing." Brooklyn's lips trembled. "You knew what happened." "I watched everything," he said. "I had people keeping an eye on you. I know how you begged Natalie for help, how she humiliated you. I saw you leave the university. I watched you walk through the rain with your bag, and it broke me." Tears filled Brooklyn's eyes. "Why didn't you stop it?" she asked. "Why let me fall so far?" Jeremy looked down. "Because I needed to know who you were when no one was watching. Not for a reward, not for a show, but because that's your true heart. And now, I want to lift you back up." He slid the envelope across the table. "What's this?" she whispered. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was an official acceptance letter with the Zion Tech seal. "Dear Ms. Brooklyn Travis, we are pleased to offer you a full scholarship to complete your degree at any university of your choice, locally or internationally. Additionally, you are invited to join our global developer program as a junior software engineer with an annual salary of $65,000. All expenses, including accommodation and relocation, will be covered. We believe in your dream, and we believe in you. Jeremy Zion, CEO, Zion Tech." Brooklyn burst into tears. I don't know what to say." Jeremy reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers. "Say yes," he said. "Say yes to your dreams." The cafe turned silent. By now, everyone in the cafe had stopped talking. The other waitresses stared. One of them whispered, "She knows that man." Another said, "Isn't that Jeremy Zion? I saw him on TV last week." Brooklyn looked around, realizing the moment was bigger than she thought. Jeremy stood up. "Brooklyn," he said, loud enough for the cafe to hear, "you were the only one who didn't walk past me when I had nothing. Now that I have everything, I'm walking back to lift you up." The crowd clapped softly. A few students from the university who had mocked her before looked down in shame. The final blow to Natalie. Later that evening, news broke on social media. Videos and photos circulated of Brooklyn Travis sitting with Jeremy Zion, receiving a scholarship and job offer. Headlines read, "Waitress turns developer. Girl who helped beggar turns out to be hero of Zion Tech's viral project. From cafe to code, billionaire honors student who saved his life." Natalie Green was scrolling her feed when she saw the story. Her jaw dropped. What? That's impossible. She was nothing. But it was too late. The world had already seen the story. And Brooklyn's name was now trending worldwide. Full circle. A month later, Brooklyn stood outside JFK Airport, ready to board a flight to California, where Zion Tech's main tech hub awaited. Jeremy stood beside her. "Nervous?" he asked. "A little," she smiled. "But ready?" He nodded. "There's one more thing." He handed her a new laptop. Engraved on the top were the words, "For the one who passed the test, no one knew they were taking." Jay-Z. Brooklyn hugged him tightly. "Thank you for everything." "No," Jeremy said. "Thank you. You saved more than just my life. You reminded me of the power of pure kindness." As the plane ascended into the clouds, Brooklyn looked out the window, eyes shining. From waitress to warrior. From beggar's helper to world changer. And her story had only just begun. A new beginning. 6 months had passed since Brooklyn Travis boarded that plane to California. What once felt like an unreachable dream had now become her everyday life. She sat in a sleek office at Zion Tech's global headquarters, dressed in a crisp blazer, reviewing code and project strategies with a team of international developers. As part of the Leadership Acceleration Program, she was already managing a junior team and was next in line for a supervisory role. Every day, she stepped into the high-rise building with gratitude. Not because of luck, but because her kindness had finally come full circle. One morning, Jeremy knocked lightly on her glass office door. "Hey," he said with a smile, holding 2 cups of coffee. Brooklyn stood up, laughing. "I never thought I'd see you bringing me coffee." "Well," Jeremy replied, "you once gave me lunch when I had nothing. This is the least I can do." They both laughed. Jeremy sat across from her, his tone growing serious. "I want to talk about your mom." Brooklyn's smile faded slightly. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay," Jeremy said, handing her a sealed envelope. "I spoke to my team in Lagos. We bought your mother a house. A proper one, 3 bedrooms, a backyard, solar power, full security. She'll never have to pay rent again." Brooklyn's eyes filled with tears. "You did this for her. You did everything for me," he said gently. "She raised you to be who you are. This is me thanking her for giving the world someone like you." Brooklyn opened the envelope and saw the property documents and keys. I don't know what to say. Just tell her she's moving in next week," Jeremy said. "We've already hired movers." Brooklyn broke down in tears. A call home. That evening, Brooklyn video called her mother. "Mama, can you hear me?" she said, holding back tears. "Brookie, my daughter, you look so fresh. This your new life fits you." "Oh," her mother beamed, wearing her usual wrapper and sitting on a wooden chair outside their old rented home. "Mama, I have something to tell you." She showed her the house documents over the screen. Her mother squinted. "What's that?" "You're moving," Brooklyn said, smiling. "To a real house. It's yours now. No rent. No landlord. You'll have your own kitchen, your own bathroom, everything." There was silence on the other end. Then her mother screamed, "Jesus! Huh? My God! My daughter, you bought me a house? You this child?" Brooklyn laughed through her tears. "It wasn't me alone. Jeremy helped." That Jeremy. God will bless him. My enemies said my daughter will suffer forever. But look at you now. From cafe girl to computer boss." Brooklyn smiled. "We made it, Mama." Fall of the Proud. Back in Lagos, things had changed for Natalie Green. After Brooklyn's dismissal, Natalie thought she had won. But pride has a way of pulling people down fast. 2 months later, Natalie was caught in a grading scandal after trying to bribe a lecturer to adjust her final project score. Screenshots leaked. She denied it, but the evidence was clear. Crest University suspended her indefinitely. No degree. No transcript. Her hopes of applying abroad crashed overnight. Without a degree or work experience, she struggled to find a job. No one took her seriously anymore. Her fancy clothes and phones didn't matter in job interviews. One hot afternoon, Natalie sat under a broken umbrella at a roadside stall, selling secondhand phone cases to make ends meet. Sweat dripped down her forehead as she argued with a customer who refused to pay full price. A group of students passed by. "Isn't that Natalie?" one whispered. "The one who used to insult Brooklyn?" another said. "She looks finished." Natalie pretended not to hear, but their words stabbed like knives. She pulled her shawl tighter over her face. She took out her old phone, the same iPhone she had flaunted months ago, and looked at a photo of her and Brooklyn in their final year. She zoomed in on Brooklyn's smile. For the first time in a long while, Natalie whispered, "I was wrong." A visit to the past. Brooklyn returned to Lagos for the official launch of Zion-Tech Africa Hub, where she was named as one of the lead project engineers. The event drew national media attention. Dressed in an elegant suit and simple heels, she stood before the same university gates where she once gave her lunch to a man she thought was a beggar. Now, banners showed her face with the caption, "From waitress to tech star, Brooklyn Travis returns home." As she walked past the gates, students whispered and pointed. "That's her, the one who helped Jeremy. She's back." Brooklyn smiled humbly and waved. Inside the event hall, she gave a short speech. "They say kindness is weakness, but I've learned that true strength lies in compassion. If you ever get the chance to help someone, take it, because you never know whose life or future you're saving." The crowd stood to applaud. A final encounter. As Brooklyn left the event that evening, she stopped at a small shop to buy water. There, by the corner, sat someone she didn't expect to see. Natalie. Her makeup was faded, her clothes dusty. She looked up, eyes widening as she recognized Brooklyn. For a moment, neither said a word. Then Natalie spoke first. "Brooklyn." Brooklyn nodded politely. "Natalie." Natalie stood slowly. I heard everything. I saw the news. You made it." Brooklyn looked her in the eyes. "I didn't do it to prove anything." "I know," Natalie said, voice trembling. "That's what makes you better than me." Brooklyn paused, then asked softly, "Are you okay?" Natalie's pride wavered. She looked down. "No, I'm not. I messed up. I let jealousy and pride ruin everything. And when you needed help, I treated you like dirt." Brooklyn sighed. "It's not too late to start over." Natalie looked up, shocked. "After everything I said? Everything I did? You're not the first person to fall," Brooklyn said gently. "But you can choose how you rise." Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve your kindness." Brooklyn smiled faintly. "Neither did Jeremy. But we all have a second chance." She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "This is for a free online coding course. It's beginner level. You might want to try it." Natalie took it, speechless. "Thank you," she whispered. Brooklyn nodded, turned, and walked away, shoulders high, heart steady. Full circle. Weeks later, Brooklyn flew her mother to California for her first plane ride. "Mama, hold the armrest," she laughed as the plane took off. I feel like my heart is in my stomach," her mother cried out, half laughing, half praying. When they landed, Jeremy was at the airport to welcome them. "Welcome to your new home, Mama," he said respectfully. "Young man," her mother said, hugging him tightly, "thank you for not just saving my daughter, but for seeing who she truly is." Jeremy smiled. "She saved me first." Years later, Brooklyn Travis stood on the stage of an international tech conference in Geneva, addressing a crowd of innovators, entrepreneurs, and world leaders. Dressed in a sharp navy suit, her voice carried strength and humility. Behind her, a giant screen displayed the words, "From waitress to world changer." She smiled as she spoke. "I once gave my only lunch to a man I thought was a beggar. I didn't know he was a billionaire testing the world's compassion. I didn't do it for reward. I did it because it was right." In the front row sat Jeremy Zion, proud and smiling. Nearby was her mother, wiping tears, and even Natalie, now reformed and part of Brooklyn's outreach program to mentor young women in tech. Brooklyn closed her speech with a message that would echo across the world. You don't need money, power, or titles to make a difference. You only need heart. As the crowd rose in applause, Brooklyn looked upward, grateful for the pain, the sacrifice, the rejection, because all of it led her here. She had once lost everything for a simple act of kindness. Now, the world knew her name because of it, and she was just getting started.